Welcome back, everybody, to WTL. Where's the Line? Nebraska's first and only sports betting show. I'm your host, Andy Kless, joined by
Jabron.
Oh,
yeah.
Parlay Pounder.
You got it.
Now, it is time.
Yes.
To talk a little baseball. We're in the summer here.
Yes, we are. We're in the thick of it.
That's right. That's exactly right. We got World Series odds, MVP odds, division odds, and I know you got a little bit, teams to make the playoffs, all sorts of leans, slants, and picks that you want to get to. And I think we want to start right there with these divisional odds, these divisional winners.
Yeah, Andy. We just have a lot of good plus money bets right now. With how young the season is and how well some teams are playing right now, they're still getting long odds. The first team I want to talk about, Andy, is our close team here, the Kansas City Royals.
Okay.
In the American League Central, Andy, they are at a plus 450 to win that division.
Yep.
They are 2 games out of it as of right now.
26-19 record.
Exactly. Right in the thick of the things with Cleveland Guardians and the Minnesota Twins.
Yep.
They kind of seem like the 3 teams kind of seem like the same team right now.
Right, they do.
Exactly.
And that's what we said going into this season.
That's what we said going into it.
This is going to be a competitive division here.
Exactly. And they're all playing really well right now, Andy.
Yeah.
All 3 with winning records right now. Obviously, the division falls flat on its face with Detroit and Chicago at the bottom of it. But no, I just love the plus money for the Kansas City Royals because they're in this thing. Yeah. And I think they might have the best player of all 3 teams with Bobby Witt Jr.
Yeah, and you always like to talk about the All-Stars, and deservedly so, because they're winners.
For sure.
And those type of All-Stars, for whatever reason, whatever team they're on, those teams win.
No doubt.
I'm looking at the Warhorse Sportsbook here, Bet Builder on their app, and they're right with you. Royals at a plus 400.
Yeah.
Then you have the Guardians at a plus 175, even though they're leading the division right now by 2 games. The Twinkies are still your favorites. You got like that at a plus 110.
No, I think people understand that we are probably the best overall team in the division, and I think people can see that with the lineup top to bottom with our pitching, our closer, all that kind of stuff taken into account. I do believe the Twins are the best, but we've seen this in the past, me being a Minnesota Twins fan, that it doesn't always finish like that. I just like the way the Kansas City Royals are kind of this young team, up and coming.
Yeah.
They got the big vet with Salvador Perez. Behind the plate, the captain calling the shots, and the best player in the field with Bobby Witt Jr., MVP candidate. So I really like the division winner plus 450. But like you said, if I'm just going to go with the Kansas City Royals, maybe a better bet is just for them to make the playoffs.
Okay.
With the wild card.
All right.
For them to make the playoffs right now is a plus 155, which I do believe that they are going to make the postseason, either winning the division or being in the wild card. So it's still plus money bet if you don't want to go full in on them winning the division over the Twins or the Guardians. Take that plus 155 to just make the playoffs. I believe the Royals will have some postseason baseball.
All right, and you make a great point there where like all 3 of these teams are kind of just the same team right now.
No doubt about it.
All 3 of them, as of right now, are 6-4 their last 10 games.
Yes. Boom, 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 boom.
Yep, and you're kind of licking your wounds there or sulking a little bit as being a Twins fan. Royals fans over the last couple of years are like, give me a break.
Yeah, give me a break.
But they have 2015, so I don't know if I want to hear that.
Yeah, I have 1991. I was 2 years old, so yep.
Any other divisions where you're seeing some of that plus money that you like?
The other one that I really want to talk about, Andy, is the American League East, the American League Beast.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
They're still giving plus money to the Baltimore Orioles, and I have to imagine
they're leading the division.
They're leading the division. The Yankees are right there, neck and neck with them every other day. But I love the Baltimore Orioles. I love the young team. They just got the right people in the right spots right now. Plus 165 division winner. I think it's a very good bet.
They're plus 400. They're in this 2-hole just to win the American League outright.
Exactly.
They're right behind the Yankees, and right now they're a half game up on the Yankees in the division.
Exactly. So no, I love the Baltimore Orioles. I do believe that it's just the Yankees getting the Yankee kind of edge, and if I had to put them up against each other, I know that the Yankees can hit the long ball, but
yes, they can.
These young Orioles can too. So I love the Baltimore Orioles, and I love the plus 165 that I'm getting with them.
I'm looking at the Warhorse Sports app here once again, and in the 3-hole, you have the Tampa Bay Rays at a plus 1,300. They're fourth in the division right now, 7 games back, but I don't know. Somehow, some way, the Rays always make the playoffs.
No
so
doubt.
maybe not win the division here, but make the playoffs. That might be an avenue that I would go down.
No, you gotta love that for the Tampa Bay Rays, just because they're plus 235 just to make the playoffs right now. You gotta love that. They're just a team that always seems to make it. They got the stars to prove it. They got the postseason appearances to prove it. So I do like that bet as a just making the playoffs kind of thing.
They do that when they don't have stars, when they don't have names. They somehow make the playoffs. And they like last year, they had a bunch of injured arms, a bunch of injured pitchers.
And they still did it.
And it's like, how is it? How is this happening? How does Oakland make the playoffs ever? But every once in a while they do, not this year.
Exactly. But no, and another one I wanted to touch on, Andy, that's at a plus money. They are leading the division as well, and they're still at plus money. Is the Milwaukee Brewers are at plus 160.
National League.
They're 2 National League Central. They're 2 games up on the Cubs right now, and they're still getting plus money. I think it's a very good sign that the Brewers will be there in the end.
Yeah.
And I just don't feel that the Central is loaded with teams that are going to win this thing. So I believe it's really down to the Brewers and the Cubs. And if time has proven that the Cubs can choke as well, just like the Twins.
It's really it feels like it's turning into a 2-horse race here between the Chicago Cubs, the Milwaukee Brewers. Pirates are fun to watch at times.
Yes.
And St. Louis got off to that god-awful start. They've won some games as of late, but their last 10, they're 3-7.
Yeah, exactly, Andy. A lot of people had money on the Cardinals, me being one of them at the start of the season. Well, just thinking that they, had the talent to do it.
Yeah.
But they're minus 45 in run differential right now, Andy, and that is absolutely terrible. They are just getting spanked, and you can see maybe making a run, but I do believe this is a 2-horse race here with the Brewers and the Cubs. And if you're getting plus money on the first place team
at this point,
take it.
You really can't argue with that. And we mentioned that with our guy Matt Plotchek. He goes, when you're talking about a balanced team, the Brewers might be the most balanced team in baseball, not just the division in all of baseball.
I'm always on with Matt. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I do believe Plotty was like, oh man, I understand where these St. Louis fans are coming from and what they're saying and their expectation and all this stuff, but it kind of feels like a Nebraska fan in the mid 2000s, like maybe pump the brakes.
It really does, and they're paying so much money with those stars, Goldschmidt and Arenado, that they think they deserve something. But from the Yankees standpoint, they've been doing that for a million years and haven't won since 1999. So no, I see both ways of it, but I do like the Brewers at plus money, plus 160 to win the division right now.
Alrighty. Do we want to talk a little MVP odds? Of course.
Yes.
If you're talking MVP odds, you absolutely have to have a couple Yankees at the tippy top. And
tip top.
And right there, Juan Soto leading everybody right now, plus 200, plus 250 is kind of where I'm seeing him.
Exactly, Andy. He is playing lights out. Obviously, my first pick in the fantasy draft this year, Juan Soto. So obviously he's doing very well.
Obviously.
And like you said, the other Yankee right behind him at plus 1,600 that I'm seeing it at, Aaron Judge.
Yep.
But the guy that we just talked about, Bobby Witt Jr.
Yep.
He's in that second slot with
plus 300,
plus
250.
Yep. So if you're a Kansas City Royal guy, you do have your guy. He is a full-fledged all-star. He is a full-fledged MVP candidate. And it's got to feel good for those guys to feel that.
Hey, BetMGM, an app that I could use if I got out of state or something like that. He's at a plus 250 right now, right there with Juan Soto. And Aaron Judge, you must be looking at DraftKings, is at plus 1,600 there.
Yep.
He's at a plus 1,000 at FanDuel.
Yeah.
So we always talk about it as
Value.
far as shopping around, field around. And we saw Aaron Judge. I felt I guess he deserved the MVP, but I don't think he would have won it had he not been in New York.
Yeah.
I mean, Shohei, he had like 40 home runs and over 100 strikeouts. I'm like, like, give me a break. That is a no-brainer MVP. I don't care how many home runs Aaron Judge hits, but that doesn't matter. We're talking odds. We're talking odds. Winning the darn thing.
Yep.
You also have a Baltimore Oriole. You were talking about these youngsters.
Yeah.
Henderson at a plus 500.
Yeah, Andy. And you got to love Gunnar Henderson, what he's done so far in the year. He's right up there with all the stats and all that kind of stuff. But really, Andy, if I'm going to put money on an Oriole right now, I'm going down the list a little bit to the plus 2,000 area to Adley Rushman.
Okay.
The catcher. I just believe when you're a catcher, you just have that better odds on. You stand out a little bit more. That's the only reason that Joe Mauer won his 2 MVPs is because he was a catcher.
They give you so much credit defensively. Like your bat can struggle. You can go in a couple of slumps, but then they always come back with but his defense.
Yeah. And this guy is hitting over 300.
Yeah.
He has close to 10 home runs already. So I believe that if you're going to go with an Oriole, I love Adley just a little bit more than Gunnar, just because I love the niche he brings to it.
I like it just because if you're doing futures on something as flaky as this, I want the value, so I want the plus 2,000, plus 2,300 on Caesars Sportsbook.
Exactly.
One of the biggest apps out there as far as sports betting goes.
For sure. And on the other side of it, the National League MVP, Andy, you got to talk Dodgers. They're 8 games up in their division already. Yeah. Mookie Betts playing out of his mind. Obviously, Shohei Ohtani, like you just already talked about, they're leading at plus 165 and plus 330 for Shohei. Obviously, without Shohei pitching, it hurts his value a little bit. The one guy that I want to talk to that's a little bit down the list, Andy, is Fernando Tatis Jr.
Oh, okay.
With the San Diego Padres. They're 8 games behind the Los Angeles Dodgers right now. I don't see the Dodgers wavering at all, but if they can make it close at some point, he will be the reason that they do it, and they will give him a lot of credit for it. So I believe at a plus 1,800.
Yeah, he's way down there.
It's just as good as value as anybody, because if he makes that move, if the Padres can somehow figure out how to close that gap with the Dodgers, he will get a ton of credit for it. So that's the reason I like him. And obviously, you got to talk about the big guy in Philadelphia, Bryce Harper. Yeah. They are winning their division right now, 30 wins. You got to give it to him. He's a full-fledged all-star, perennial MVP candidate as well.
You know who we really need to talk to is Ohtani's translator. Who he thinks?
Who do you think's going to win?
Who would he bet on? Who would he lay $3 million?
I'm guessing Shohei.
Real quick, because we are up against it here. Let's talk a little World Series odds. Of course, the Dodgers are out in front. I'm looking at a plus 320. It's tough to argue that. And the Braves are right behind him. It's tough to argue that. Plus 300, plus 350.
Exactly. I think you should be getting a lot better value with the Braves right now, with them being 2 games in the hole to the Philadelphia Phillies. Right. That's why the 2 bets that I really love, Andy, 2 teams that we already talked about, the Baltimore Orioles at plus 950. You can get it all the way up to 1,200 in some books, and then the Philadelphia Phillies that we just talked about at plus 950 all the way up to 1,250 in other books. These are 2 teams. Phillies have been so close the last couple of years. I believe they have the roster to do it. They have the superstars to do it. And then Baltimore is that, young team waiting in the rafters, waiting to make their move. So I love those 2 as your kind of outliers, your sleepers.
Yep. So, I mean, both of those teams at plus 950, you go in there, you make a $10 bet. That means you're going to, and if you win that, you hit that, you walk home with $105 in your pocket. That's how that plus money compiles for you.
Yes, sir.
And wins. It's hard to argue those 2 teams right now. And the Phillies were right there. They were right there last year.
They're right there.
All right. Well, that'll about do it for us this week. Be sure to follow us on ESPN Tri-City Radio and their Facebook page. We're on Twitter. We're also on YouTube. Please, if you haven't already, think about going there, watch some of those videos, liking them, subscribing, all those things. All those things. That they always talk about. So much fun.
Like, subscribe, all the fun things. Obviously, you can find us on TikTok as well at WT Sports Betting. We will have big picks before any primetime games, especially NBA playoffs right now.
Jabron's the TikTok king.
Let's go.
For Jabron, the parlay pounder, I'm Andy Klassen. Thank you for listening. This has been WTL.